Construction industry. Traditional, price-driven, competitive, green, tech-savvy? Which of these statements is true and which is false?
Innovation in construction industry can take 3 to 5 years from idea through commercialization, industrialization, and really making it work in the market. It's actually a positive and a negative pain in the neck.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, asking the difficult questions that it's not always easy to answer in a public. But on the other hand, it's really asking those questions that help us move forward. I would even use this word to describe my title. It should not be CEO or Managing Director, but should be the enabler.
My today's guest is Marcin Dmowski, CEO of GEZE, a family-run global business in the building automation space. Marcin has been associated with the construction industry for over 20 years, working for global and local organizations such as 3M, Cersanit, or Kimberly Clark. He was awarded the Builder Award 2023. He's also very active in sports, including Olympic weightlifting, CrossFit, sailing, just to name a few. Marcin, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, so construction industry, traditional, price-driven, competitive, green, tech-savvy? Which of these statements is true and which is false?
That is an interesting question because I think all of them are true.
Is
because
it?
Depending which sector of the business of the industrial construction you look at, it can be very competitive. It's been over 100 years in Poland or even longer, and you see competitiveness every day. And because of the pandemics, I think it became even more aggressive. But when you look at the bigger corporations, those that really invest in the non-residential constructions, the green aspect of construction is becoming much more important. I think it is what is also a very visible aspect of the change that happened in the last 5 years since the COVID pandemic started, is the digitization of the construction industry. It is very expensive at the very beginning. When I mean digitization, is moving into a BIM, so the building information management systems, which is much more time consuming, much more expensive in the early stage. But then in the total cost of ownership of the building, it plays a much bigger role in maintenance and the cost of the lifetime of usage. And that is the area that we try to move into as well now, thinking of how can we help or how can we enable you as an investor to really look into the total cost of ownership of your building and then automate it and control each aspect. And with BIM, for example, you can go down to every single little screw in the building and you know what type of equipment to give to your maintenance team during the lifetime of the building, not only at the stage of design and construction. So that's why I'm saying that every single statement that you made is actually very much true about the Polish construction industry, even though it is slowing down, but is really each aspect is very much active.
That's very interesting. You joined GEZE Poland in June 2020, right after the outbreak of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Today, 2024, what is the state of the construction industry, the construction business in Poland, and how does it impact your business?
Yes, 4 years.
4 years, yeah, it's a long time.
It's a long
time,
time,
yeah.
Long, but also very short. And also, I think, very much surprising because when you look into the beginning of maybe the first year of pandemics, everybody was expecting a crisis in the construction industry at that time. And I think to everybody's surprise, when you speak to from the smallest constructors or fabricators to the large investors, I think the funds that have been generated through the EU governments as well as the local Polish governments have really helped the construction industry to thrive. I wouldn't say survive, but to thrive through the pandemics. And the liquidity, so the cash turnaround was much better during pandemics than it is now.
That's
when you look at the cost of money, so for the investors, when I joined GEZE June 2020, the base rate of the Polish National Bank was 0.5%. Now it's 5.75, and it's more stabilizing, which is good as well. But the cost of running an investment is becoming huge. So if you compare just a short period of 4 years, it's 5 times more expensive to build and to invest into a new construction. Same as the Recovery and Resilience Funds, the KPO. The delay that we had in Poland has benefited countries like Czech Republic, Slovakia, countries surrounding us that have sustained the investment in the construction industry, and it has slowed down the Polish market a little bit. However, there are sectors in the construction industry that we have managed to, not we, but we as a nation, as Poland, managed to keep active. So, for example, healthcare, as the outcome of what happened in the pandemics, we started investing as a country in improving the quality and the standards of the national healthcare system, but also the private healthcare system. So everybody really started investing, and that helps to keep the investment flow in the market, the cash flow. But the downside is, to your first question, is the price competitiveness or price aggressiveness in the market, which to an extent is not so healthy, but that's probably not part of your question. So I think we are at the stage that we are not at the very bottom, but we are slowly coming out of the bottom of the construction industry slowdown. So when you look at the aluminum industry, where we are very active, and the second stage where we move in, so after construction of the building, we come in when the facade is done and the interiors are done. This part of the industry, I think we need another 6 or 9 months to see the recovery. So towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, we should be back into a positive trend. I wouldn't say very dynamic, but a positive trend versus last 9, 12 months. We have been in slow decline or a little bit of stagnation.
I hear you. So are you now more positive, still kind of pessimistic, neutral
I'm
in
always
terms
positive.
of? I know you're always positive. That's what characterizes you. Okay, so what are you in terms of this 4 years, as you mentioned, just quite short but probably very intense time for you in the seat of the CEO of GEZE. What are you the most proud of in terms of preparing the organization for the current business opportunities and threats as well?
When I look through the 4 years, I think there are 2 aspects that are really, I wouldn't say critical, but important, and what really makes us really grow every year, irrespective of what happens in the construction industry. And the first one, I think, maybe naming it this way is a little bit too big or might sound artificial, but I would call it trust. And we had a discussion yesterday in the office about it as well. That when I joined in June 2020, I think more or less 6 months, 6, 7 months, people were scared because there was no direction, no information which way to go from me, what to do next, and where do we take the company. But that was for a reason. Okay, I knew the construction industry, but I did not know the culture of the company I joined. So the first 6 months was really spending time in the field and listening to what's happening with the guys and girls in the field working directly frontline with the customer, but also people working in the office in different sections, whether it's pre-sales and analyzing the market, or the logistics, supply chain, customer service, so really working with the customer, but from the second line in the company. Yeah. But also functions like accounting, controlling, and technical teams that are quite often not visible in the market for the customer, because they spend time in the back trying to figure out what's the best solution for you to make Magda's investment work smoothly and to enable Magda to focus on interviews like this rather than her investment that is happening somewhere else in the field. So this was the challenge, to really spend time focusing on what really happens in the organization. What is the dynamics within individuals and between the people, as well as between us and the customers, and between us and the investors, which was the toughest, I think still is, the toughest part of doing business. And I believe if you ask people now, the way we have moved through the 4 years, they still see me as a very demanding person, setting high standards, but also in the same time, allowing them to achieve those standards in their own pace. So there is no Marcin Dmowski pace at GEZE, but there is an individual pace of each team. making sure that we don't get lost in the run, but really try to find a pace that we all can go together in the same, more or less same direction, but in the same tempo, same dynamics. So that's one thing, is really to listen, observe, understand where we have been and where we can move, how we can move forward. And the second, I think it's also somehow centered around trust, but trust in a reverse way, so that people trusted me in some crazy ideas that I tend to have. But in this way, we also created solutions that have not existed. So innovation in construction industry can take 3 to 5 years, from idea through commercialization, industrialization, and really making it work in the market. And we have managed in the 4 years to develop new solutions, innovative solutions, from what already had existed in the market. So in a way, we reframed what innovation is by looking through a different perspective, a different glass, at the same things that existed in the market. So we put things together, retested them, and brought solutions that help the construction industry based on tools and products that already existed in the market. So this felt crazy at the very beginning. We created a team called G22 Plus that people volunteered. And about half of the organization volunteered. They really wanted to participate in how the organization will change going forward. And I do believe if you ask them now, they would say they pretty much own the direction. They change every single step. Okay, sometimes it might feel that things that you've mentioned that need to be changed are not changing as quickly, as dynamically as they should. But then again, going back to what I said earlier, we go with the pace of the individuals. So sometimes for those that are more dynamic, might feel it's a little bit too slow. But then for those that go at their own pace, they feel we go exactly the way we should. And I think that's, I wouldn't call it a magic, but that's what makes things work smoother within the organization.
So with trust, you were enabling and empowering people to bring their own ideas and to be a part of this change. That's happened in the organization. Is it fair to say?
Yeah, actually, I would even use this word to describe my title. It should not be CEO or managing director, but should be the enabler.
Enabler, okay.
Because that's what happens. So we created a management team that is accountable not only for their work. So we have a job description, but I'm not paying too much attention on what is written within. It's more a guideline, a framework. But then the challenge really is, and what I'm encouraging everyone, is to think about the overall business. Okay, you might be in accounting, but if you see things not working correctly in sales or after sales or different departments, it's your accountability to share this knowledge. And it's not about trying to behave as you're a snitch and trying to prove that somebody's doing something wrong. But you do it for the good of the company. And if the company is doing well, everybody within the company is doing well. So it's
mutual.
It's mutual, and it's tricky because it's never singular. So it's never 0-1.
Yeah.
A management and setting up is never like a simple IT part of code where you type something in a code and then it goes automatically.
There's a human factor,
yes,
which
is should be.
Which my friend always says, humans are messy. It's not that easy to program somebody to behave in a way. Yeah. But if you, what I hear, you're igniting the vision. You are helping people to believe that they can actually have influence over what is happening in the organization. Is it really so? Do people you are part of a global company. Do people feel they have a bit of impact on the business?
That's two questions within your one question. I think yes, being part of the global company, but like you said in the beginning, we're still a family-run company, which helps us to really have direct impact into what we do locally. And again, if you speak with some of the people that work closer with the customers, they might complain we're not as innovative as Google or as OpenAI or as other companies that you see innovating almost daily. But we do innovate within the construction industry, and we act and looked at the construction industry from a different perspective. So what we have said within what you described as a vision, we want to enable you as the investor or the investors in the market to look into what is important for them, whether it's generating proper cash flow from the building, whether it's organizing the hotel in the best way to accommodate the guests, whether it's really caring for the patients in the hospital, to enable the nurse or the doctor to run smoothly through the hospital, not to worry that there is a door or a lock or something in the building. And through this, what we said, we want to be the first choice for whatever your problem with the building is. First call us, and then we'll help you find the solution. And there is actually a book that I brought with me to show you later after the interview, because I know you're passionate about it as well. But it's, I think the guy is called Will Guidara, comes from a completely different industry.
Do you remember the title?
I do. It's Unreasonable Hospitality.
I hear you.
And it comes from the hospitality business, from a restaurant business. But it's really not about the restaurant business, but it's about how can you give a customer or an investor or a fabricator or a dealer, a partner, something more than they expect. Because normally they send you an order and they expect a timely delivery.
Yeah.
That's it, more or less. But how do you spend time with the investors and with each of the players of the market, whether it's an architect who has a general vision of the building, or then you speak with the architects that design small elements. They can design the window and do the calculations for the facade on the active air supply, or the door manufacturers. So everybody that is part of that industry really is expecting a little bit more within their own small, narrow part of the construction industry. And what we aim for is to be really the first choice for each of them to make sure that we can deliver more for them. So they do not have to design that building. They can receive support or design from us to really focus on the actual construction that they have to complete. So that's the vision we have painted ourselves. And I hope
yes.
that if you ask anybody in the organization, they will speak up and share that vision and the direction that we want to achieve. And I think in most cases we are over there. So we have the attitude and the mindset of caring a little bit more for each of the players in the market. Really starting from the investor through architect, dealer, fabricator, and the companies that then run the buildings. And again, people that we do not see. So people from facility management make sure that the electricity works, that the beautiful cameras and lights are operational, that we can come in, there is silence, the doors are locked. But also in case of emergency, you know that when you escape, the things will work on the emergency routes. So really what we try to do is to make sure that every one of us understands that we are there to help them make their life easier so they can focus on what is important for them.
It's beautifully said. So if I could ask the owners of the organization, it's a company founded in Germany, isn't it? Yeah. So if I asked the owners of the company, the headquarters, what has the Polish branch, the Polish side, brought into the business besides the spectacular business results? What do you think they would say to that? What has the Polish branch brought in terms of innovation, insights, education, culture?
Oh my goodness. I think the first thing would say the pain in the neck, because always asking the difficult questions and always finding it's actually a positive and a negative pain in the neck.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, asking the difficult questions that it's not always easy to answer in a public, but on the other hand, it's really asking those questions that help us move forward. So the innovations or the new solutions that we found soon will become European or global solutions. And it's not really by being or owning or having a too high ego to have a global solution, but it's really being pragmatic about paying attention on what really happens within a very narrow specialized sector. So like the example I gave about a hospital.
Yeah.
And how you design an entrance to the hospital ward that is enabling the nurse to run smoothly through the door rather than exercising, stretching and Pilates in the hospital corridors, so she can pass through with a patient in a safe and easy environment. So we design those solutions in partnership with other companies, but more importantly, in partnership with those nurses, which is quite unusual to what has been happening. And I know that when anybody will listen to this from the Polish team, they will laugh, because we were also the subsidiary that started inviting product management team to the market. They develop solutions, global solutions within the R&D center in Leonberg, close to Stuttgart. And we've invited them to really see the actual users of the solutions. Okay, our partners can be dealers, architects, or fabricators, but the actual user is you, me, the nurse, the lady in the reception in the hotel, the guests in the hotel, or the waiting staff, the waiters in restaurants that operate and run through the buildings and the doors, as well as the security teams that operate the systems and scenarios, and really started opening the eyes that the innovation doesn't mean I need a new camshaft in the door closer, but the innovation is really providing a solution that makes life easier for that nurse. And it does not have to come from us. And we have the heritage of over 160 years of manual work and craftsmanship, which is great because that speaks for the quality, that speaks for the durability and endurance. But then innovation does not mean you have to always manufacture everything yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the other side that you will listen and hear from Leonberg, that we are introducing partners in a safe way that really enables the rest of the business to operate smoother.
I love it. For me, it also speaks about almost, I want to say, inclusiveness. So including every partner in that space to co-create together, understanding better what is the environment, what are the needs, what is the situation of the user at the end, and to bring the user to the boards and empower the user and almost enable the whole process.
And the challenge with that was it's never so obvious because originally when you look at the P&L, it's not the end user that pays the bill, but it's the customer that pays the bill. But at the end, this is the end user that pays the salary because if they are not satisfied, we will not come back to that building. It will be somebody else who will go there. So it's that's the shift in the mindset that happens, is that wherever we are, whether we are in the construction industry or we move to any other, it's always the end user that pays the salary of myself and everybody in the organization.
Yeah. When I was preparing for this interview, I read on your LinkedIn profile that you used the name custodian of change, which really interested me, struck my attention. So as a custodian of change, what is the most challenging when you think about transforming organization in the construction business? In such a fast-changing global environment, local environment, what was, maybe not to be very broad, but to speak about your own organization, you remember the most kind of trying, the most challenging project initiative?
I think the project is continuous. I don't think there is a single one. I think the biggest challenge with the change is understanding the urgency of the change. Because when you look at the construction industry, it's been active for a couple thousand years. You go to Egypt and you see a construction that we still have no idea
how to
construct it properly and reconstruct it in the way they did it a couple thousand years ago. So from that perspective, to really convince ourselves, as well as the partners around, about the urgency of change, that if we do not implement the change now, then in 10, 15 years, it will be too late or we will be left behind. So I think that's the biggest, I don't want to say challenge, but I think the biggest focus of the change, because it's, I think something that at least my organization starts understanding, that the change never stops. It's a cycle that continues all the way. It's never stopping. It's just a different element that is changing. So once you start the wheel and the wheel is running, you need to inflate it a little bit. You need to care about the sides of the tire, the top of the tire. Then you need to clean it. So there's a lot that is happening through the cycle of change. But there are elements, and I think that's the second, I would say second most difficult aspect of change, is identifying the spot of hypercare. So when you really can abandon the idea, okay, I will not look into all of the KPIs, I will not measure everything. I'll focus on one single so that you can take time to really learn and adapt to the new environment, a new way of doing business. But it's not saying I will switch it off. I say, okay, there is a time, 3, 6, 12 months, 18 months, that we will have a kind of hypercare. But after that, we'll come back to measuring. And through this period, we work together to understand what we should measure and how we really should measure in the new modified or changed environment. And so I think those two are really the most difficult, because the correct spot of introducing the hypercare is critical to making sure that people adopt to the change and adopt the change themselves and start driving it themselves.
When I listen to you, I hear a lot about care, about engaging people, enabling people, being a servant, or having this kind of servant and service driven mindset. If you were to describe your leadership style, and I know you are active in sports, so maybe if you could use a sport discipline to describe your leadership style, what would it be and how will you portray it? Probably now you are scanning all the disciplines that you have recently practiced.
And the Olympics is starting in
in days, yeah.
So but really to identify, it's really difficult to just find one.
Yeah.
I would probably name the few, but I think the closest, if you look in the events of the last 2-3 months, I think I would select the WRC, so the World Rally Championship. And if you're in motorsports, you know what it is. And the reason I'm saying it's the events of last few months is because recently, end of June, beginning of July, Poland came back to the World Rally Championship elimination stage after, I think, 7 years of absence, and it was the first time of the new technology that came in to Poland and to the Mazury Lake district. And it might sound strange for somebody who doesn't know all the details about the motorsport industry. It might feel strange to call WRC because you usually see two people in a fast and expensive car.
That's the image I have in my mind.
So you have the rally driver and the co-driver and a really expensive car.
Yeah, and a lot of fast pace and risk.
Yes, yes, and a different coding. So they have a different genome within, so they can do things with that car that normal people don't. But then if you look beyond the driver and the co-driver, there is a factory that works on the engine. There is a factory that works on the components that provide additional power supply. Currently, the cars are in hybrid mode, so it's electricity as well as the petrol engine. But then you have the engineers specializing on the tires, how to prepare the tires. Then everybody looking into the safety of the car. Then the safety of the driver himself or herself, both being very active in motorsport industry. At the end, it's still that individual driver that takes the responsibility and delivers the results. But without everybody around, without the team that is on the front line, really in the service park when they have 20, 30 minutes to fix half of the car or entire car to be rebuilt, and the team that is back in the factory as well as in the cars that drive the logistics, they wouldn't be able to race. And I forgot the name of the gentleman from Finland. That was okay. The reason he joined was very unfortunate. Was driven by the accident that had happened just before the Rally Poland, and it was 80th anniversary of Rally Poland. So it's 80 years that we've been organizing as Poland the rally, and Poland was part of creation of FIA back in the early 1900s. And the guy was flown into Poland on Wednesday morning. And that shows the importance of the knowledge and continuous learning and investment in learning. So that you invest, no matter how young or old a team member is, you invest in the knowledge and education. He came in on Wednesday morning. Thursday was the start of the rally. And at the end, he won 27 out of 30 points that was available through the rally weekend. So he won just coming in. Again, what I'm saying is the mindset of the winner, and no matter what happens outside, you focus on the target. And for us in the business, the target is the customer. And us, as the company, we build safe and stable environments so that when we come to work on every Monday, Tuesday, whichever day, we feel safe to come in and not to worry about what will happen, but really focus on that single customer to deliver or over-deliver the expectations of that customer. So it's a little bit like that driver and the team.
What a great metaphor it is. It's actually very illustrative in so many terms of both the individual readiness of the leader to step in, sometimes not being prepared for what is coming, because sometimes overnight the situation changes and there is a new opportunity that it's unfolding and you must be ready. So this is the readiness of mind, isn't it? That you're stressing here as well.
And probably tomorrow I'll be able to give you more examples of different sports, but that's the first one that came to my mind when you asked.
What is the role of sports in your life?
I would say, again, there are two things that are behind, at least in my mind, for the sports. One currently is to clear my mind after however easy or tough the day was, but also it's a way to energize and start the day. Because the routine that I have is either morning or evening connected. So I tend to have 5 a.m. workouts as well as 7 or 8 p.m. workouts. So it depends on the time of the day, but most of that is really clearing the mind. When I do it in the morning, whether it's running, cycling, or weightlifting, it's still more about setting up the mind for the day and being ready for whatever comes. But also in the afternoon, it's more becoming part of cleaning the mind and really switching off the business mode, switching back into the home mode.
Yeah.
Which for me at least happens very well, relatively quickly. But we're active as a family, so it's also much easier when you have sports or activities that you do together. Not everybody will enjoy everything, but we somehow find the ways to relate it together. And I cannot find. I think I've been active since I was born, so maybe not.
Yeah. Did you have the moment in your life when you were thinking about becoming a professional athlete or a footballer or?
Footballer, no. Never a footballer.
Never.
No, somehow, no.
Okay.
This is not. I know this is our national sport, but never a footballer. I think there were periods of consideration. That was into cycling, road cycling. That I did a lot of miles daily. And the second was when I went into martial arts, and but then again the life changed and flexibility and decision making immediately moved me more into focusing on business and requirements of the day. The sport never disappeared, but then it just changed the priority.
It sounds like it's an integral part of your life, sports, be it to set your mind for the day, to decompress, to spend time with your family. I also know that it's also a vehicle in business to integrate the company, to build relationship with partners. Can sports serve as one of the business tools?
I think it does.
Yeah.
I think it does. But again, this is also not only for me, but I hope that for a lot of leaders, it's also flexibility to listen to your partners, because what I have the opportunity and what I'm grateful for is that I have a very diverse group of customers and a very diverse group of employees. So I have an opportunity to practice golf, which I think in 10 years I'm trying to learn how to laugh, and I'm still not there, but maybe one day I will. But through one of our partners from Czech Republic, I recently learned and played the first 9-hole golf without a green card, but I managed to really walk 5-6 kilometers in the golf course and really learn actively with our partner from Czech Republic how to play that sport. So really also listening to your partners, to your customers, you can learn new things and I wouldn't say unlearn, because that's the most difficult thing, but really learn new things through activities with the customers. And you know what sport's like. Okay, it's socializing, bringing you together, but it's also helping you to discover what kind of personalities you're working with. And you see whether they are hyper competitive and really driven by the result, or they are more focused on the partnership and type of activities they like to practice. Because we have also kayaking with our customers and partners, as well as yachting, sailing, or motorsports. So there is a very wide variety of sports our customers are into, which for me personally is great because I love sports. So I have opportunity to discover new areas that I have not discovered before. Also challenging. Sometimes getting into a sport that you are not familiar with and trying to learn it fast. There's also an interesting part of doing business.
If I attempt to count the number of times you mentioned the word learn in this interview, I think it will probably exceed the standard in any of my conversations. It's more, you really stress the importance of learning. And the quote from Alvin Toffler came to my mind: the illiterate of the future will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who are not able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So let's talk about learning. What currently is Marcin Dmowski learning, unlearning, or relearning in terms of business and maybe also personal life?
The most important thing I'm learning, and that's again a very interesting question, is reminded on my wrist every day.
Pole, pole.
Pole, pole, which is slowly, slowly in Swahili. And that means it keeps reminding me and learn how to slow down and appreciate what's happening around. And it's really the learning of gratitude for everything that we have, however small or big it may be, whether it's in business or in private. So really, if we have grown 2%, appreciate the growth of 2% rather than complain about not growing 30%. And the same applies to every single person we meet in business. It's really gratitude for meeting the individual and spending time with the individual and focusing on that individual at the time of the meeting rather than trying to run into a variety of ideas that is somewhere behind my mind. And the never stopping creative mind that I have is really unlearning the push and learning the stop and listen, which is or can be challenging both in business as well as in life. So I think that's the biggest thing I would say is I'm learning currently. If I would say I'm unlearning, I think I have unlearned already. And I'm not sure he will listen to this. I think he's already retired. Was one of my bosses and longtime mentors when I was based in UK for 5-6 years. He was he was a vice president for the business I was running for Europe. At that time, I was a young, dynamic Polish guy coming into UK, running a business in Europe. A very dynamic front type of person. And that's what I've unlearned, because this is what you learn in business schools. You come in with vision, you speak, you're very charismatic, you drive people forward. And this was really learning on how you put a challenge or a problem on a table and really open up for discussion and step back to allow and engage the team, or whether it's during research or during business challenges, to really invite team to discuss, debate around the challenge and only step in at the end to really help conclude and move in a certain direction. The unlearning of that was very difficult. And I'm trying to find small things like that continuously, but that was the biggest thing, is to unlearn speaking openly and driving and pushing, because then you a little bit ignore who's with you and who's supposed to go with you. And by putting the challenge on the table and inviting people around, you have the opportunity to observe, to listen and feel the dynamics, and then follow through and close to move into a certain direction with respect to the team that is around the table. And
I love it.
And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned from him, and that's been with me since then. And I think it will stay for a long, long time. I don't think this is something I want to unlearn.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know you're quite a family man, and you have great sons. What do you learn from younger generation?
I think it's a reminder for us about the passion and curiosity that we have a tendency of losing when we move into business, because you have tasks, a KPI, targets to deliver, and everybody is looking into how to move forward, how to go faster, how to keep growing. And when you look at the younger generation, they have a little bit unbiased curiosity and passion for what they do. And really, that's two things in there. One is to relearn this or reintroduce it to our life, but also to make sure that we help them to sustain it for longer, that this is really a passion that will help them drive and understand and learn where they will go in the future. And my two boys do completely opposite things in terms of the passion and studies. One goes in the field of healthcare, the second in the field of architecture, both very mathematic oriented. But it's really the challenge. They both show me, and I think my wife as well, the ability to focus on the curiosity of the area they study. And that's something that is, I believe, one of the most critical elements we have to keep learning from the young generation. We keep forgetting about it and focusing so much on the task at hand rather than curiosity of what's around us.
Yeah, also focusing on the end results, yeah, and really having an eye on the result, measuring the result, forgetting about the road that leads to that.
Yes.
Sometimes a quite bumpy road, but sometimes we also overlook those elements that we and people that we meet along the way. So that's a beautiful reminder. Passion and enthusiasm, yeah,
and enthusiasm and curiosity, because I think curiosity is pushing us forward, because then you keep exploring the areas that you're passionate about. If you have no curiosity, then you just go execute a task and keep pushing forward. And we need that type of individuals as well. But you asked about those two individuals I know very well, and this is what I would learn from them, and I want to keep learning from them.
That's beautiful. We often ask, when we have a conversation, what we can pass to the younger generation. Sometimes we actually should revert that and think, okay, what we have already forgotten that we can bring back with the younger generation. There's also a big discussion on the generations in workplace. I will probably not go there, but I think it's what you're describing is this element of looking at maybe our children and younger people around us and seeing what we have maybe lost or forgotten that they have and we can embrace again.
My youngest son recently shared a statistics from the EU Commission showing the hardworking countries or nations of Europe. And Poland was among the hardest working nations in Poland. I think we work on average 39.2 hours a week compared to the nations surrounding us more towards the west and south, averaging at least 4 hours less than us. And again, there is always a pro and con, like in every discussion. I think the less working hours enables them to enjoy life much more. But on the other side, when we look into the development of the country, and you look at the economic data and where we are versus some of the nations surrounding us in EU, then we are among what I think was a while ago before the pandemics, a green island. And the hard work attitude and hard work mentality of Poland is helping this. Again, this is a challenge, going back to your earlier question, that's something I need to learn as well, is to learn how to celebrate the smaller successes, because we tend to push and wait for the big success to come and celebrate the big success, while we keep overlooking the smaller ones that we have passed through every day. And those small celebrations can make life much more enjoyable, even when we work 39.2 hours a week.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's really amazing. I have in my mind the portrait of a person who is at the same time in racing industry and setting goals, brave one, ambitious one, and at the same time having these points of reflection and pausing and seeing what is around. That's gonna be a simple question. One of the last ones. There's always a section in my interview when I try to dive deeper into the definition of success.
Oh my goodness. You said simple.
So if you were to think about a moment in your life when you can proudly say, I succeeded as a leader, how will that moment look like? I'm a successful leader. I succeeded.
It's not an easy question.
Not an
You
easy.
promised an easy question. I don't think there is a single definition of success. There is no such thing as a success. I think success is something that is still ahead of us, and something that is a continuous cycle. I don't think there is something you can say I succeeded completely, because there's always some small element that you can improve, and that's what I said. I think just a second ago is learn how to celebrate the smaller successes. And I think those I can be very proud every month, every week, every year. So if I look back the 4, 8, 12, 25 years, I think every week, every month I'll find something that would be a small success to celebrate. Whether the fact that we managed to finish the inventory in 1.5 days versus 3 days a couple of years ago, a small thing. But a lot of people involved. So a lot of big part of the organization spending time in the warehouse running inventory check, but being able to finish in 1.5 days and successfully go home and enjoy the time doing it. That would be one of the smaller successes, but very important for the individuals and for that group that is running the cycle. Same when you look into something that is often invisible, a procurement team that looks into procuring or buying glass for the doors. Something you look through and quite often invisible, you don't think about it. But when you see a team engaging into reviewing the market, finding the best way to supply, not always the cheapest, but the most optimal for the process, then it's a small success to celebrate. Or when you know that an individual working on a commercial policy you would be able or capable of doing that in 3 or 6 months. He or she can do it in 2 years. But then you're really proud of the success you've achieved at the end, because he or she has learned through those 2 years, done it at her pace or his pace, and completed it after 2 years with a much deeper and better understanding, and therefore moving into the next phase of the process. And I think you can identify in business and in life a lot of those small successes, and I'm proud of each of them. So that's why I'm saying that it's not an easy definition. I don't think a success has a direct definition. Of course, the libraries or Wikipedias of the world will define it somehow. But for me, it's continuous, and appreciating and recognizing and being grateful for those small moments and celebrating them.
Beautiful. Right here, it's not a single point in the future that you're looking forward to. It's the everyday appreciation and of your and your team and your family achievements.
But the same with the sport you've asked about, with the racing. It's if you start, you have a vision of yourself standing on the top podium, top place on the podium. But the joy is in every single special stage that you drive. And if you approach every single stage individually and have fun from it, then the winning just comes.
I love it. Final one. This is the Impact Leaders series. I wonder, what would you like to be remembered for? What kind of impact would you like to make to be remembered for? As a person, as a human being, as a leader?
That's an interesting question. And I've heard it in some of the previous interviews you've asked, and I thought I knew what to say, but I don't know what to say. Because it's, I think it's a little bit like me. It's never 100% singular. So I think there would be 2 elements that I would like to be remembered for. One is crazy passionate about what he does. And I believe if you ask my wife, she would already say this.
With confidence.
Yes, with 300% confidence. That when I engage in business, I engage 200, 300, 400%. I just don't know how to do it in a different way. So that's what I would like to be remembered for. But the second is, I wouldn't say empathetic, because that's something that everybody understands, but it's more understanding and caring. But it's caring not like a father with allowing children to do sometimes too much when normally you wouldn't allow, but really caring and respecting the individual and the diversity of the individuals and the differences that everyone brings to the organization or to the crowd of people we spend time with.
Thank you. Thank you. I do believe that people who are lucky enough to spend time with you can actually experience that every day.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for joining us in the Impact Leaders series.
Thank you very much. It was a real privilege and honor to be here and speak with you. Thank you.